Today's video is about two little sporting memories that I have, and the first one is about a boxing match that I went to as a young fellow of about 4 or 5 years old, just before I was 5 in 1979 actually. And that happened between a fellow called Kalle Knutser, who was a South African boxer, and African American fellow called John Tate. And the boxing match took place in a place called Bophuthatswana. Bophuthatswana was a homeland set apart by the South African apartheid government for people from, that region. So they had their own government. They put out a stamp for the match, which I'll put here. The rest of the world, though, didn't recognise Bophuthatswana as truly independent. Politics aside, I do remember just feeling tense about the whole match. The African American fellow won, and I think the local crowd went a bit psycho because they were very happy for someone of their own colour to be winning the match. My father relayed the story that there was a lady of colour in front of us who basically at the time said something like, "Smack the boss, smack the boss." In those days, the African people had to call the white people boss, which means boss. So that seemed quite ironic. So that is an early memory that I have. Kalle is still alive, and I'm going to put a picture of him here in his heyday, and then also a more recent photo. John Tate unfortunately left us about 20 years ago, and he was the better boxer, and he won the match. There was a rumour that Kalle had been drinking the night before and wasn't really up to his best, performance. But possibly that's just a cop-out. Who can know? At the end of the day, John Tate won the match. I'll try and put a link to the boxing match. It's pretty grainy footage, but I did find it the other day. I'll put it in the links below. John Tate unfortunately left us about 20 years ago. I read on the internet he had a brain aneurysm or a stroke or something like that, which then led to him having a car crash. So might have been from all the boxing, who can know. But hit the boss, quite ironic. My second story is about the Springboks. Now obviously I'm a Springboks supporter. Was born in South Africa, and in 1993 I went to go and see one of their games. And the Springboks just came back onto the scene in about 1992 because of the politics in South Africa. Basically, the national team wasn't allowed to play for about 15 or so years. Or maybe it's 12 years, whatever. So I went and bought a tie before the match to commemorate the match, and as you can see, it's mainly the Springbok emblem, but there's a little Wallabies one down the bottom, so that's my favourite tie. And the match was played at Ballymore Stadium, which is a small rugby stadium. It's too small these days. This is before the game became professional. Anyway, at the match there was a few players that I'm going to talk about in particular. One of them was called Eli Taboa. He was a Fijian origin player who played for the Wallabies, and he was known as the human skewer. When he tackled people, they seemed to snap in half. He was a very strong man and a very good tackler. And the other player was called Uli Schmidt. I'll put a photo of both of them here. At the game, people were yelling for Uli, because he was a very good player. And I remember Uli getting very confused and looking confused about why would the Australian crowd be shouting out his name. I mean, obviously they weren't. They were shouting for Ili. Uli Schmidt was a doctor. Like I said, this is before the days of professionalism. And he actually emigrated to Australia and still is practicing as a doctor a couple of hours north of Sydney. Another story around that time, there was a story going around in Brisbane that the Springboks went to a pub And I think it was around the time of the show, the Brisbane show, which we call the Ekka, which is short for the exhibition. Anyway, a whole lot of fireworks went off, and the Springboks players, coming from a bit more dangerous country where there's bombings and stuff around that time, apparently all, dove for the floor, or, basically went into some sort of self-defense, sheltering kind of pose. It just shows you, your first reaction is what you are used to. Anyway, that's my little video for today. Have a great day. Bye.